Elena Skyhawk is a shaman's touch healing master teacher, Reiki master teacher, and Lao Chi practitioner teacher. Elena studied for several years with Serge Running Wolf Martel, a shaman of Mohawk Hawaiian heritage. She trained to become a shaman's touch master teacher and become a minister in Golden Eagle Ministries. Elena has also become a minister through International Metaphysical Ministry and also holds a doctoral degree in metaphysical sciences through the University of Sedona. She's working on the first of several shamanic books where she will be sharing the teachings she was given by Serge Running Wolf Martel, as well as writing the book of her life, Transformational Awakening, A Shaman's Journey to Ascension. Elena is also a co-author of the Amazon #1 best-selling book, Unscripted, How Women Thrive in Life, Business, and Relationships, Real-Life Advice from Women on Balancing Their Power. From Phoenix, Arizona, please welcome Dr. Elena Skyhawk.
Gotta make sure I have these. I'm getting older, so now I need readers. Hopefully I won't need them. So first, what I want to do, and I'm not going to light the sage because I know it can bother some people, but what I'm going to do is show you how we originally start a ceremony. Because when we're working in a medicine wheel, we always do it in a ceremonial way. Whenever we do any type of healing, we do it in a ceremonial way. Whether it's a Ninipi ceremony, which is better known as a sweat lodge, whether it is a Uwhippy ceremony, which is a very private, sacred ceremony that, unless you've been there, you don't get to find out what it's about, because it's very secret and very personal to the people that are in it. But when we do a ceremony, and the way I do it, because my business is called Contemporary Native Healing. I was not raised on the reservation. In fact, I was one of the children that was stolen and sold as an infant. And I grew up with white folks because it was believed at that time that we were better raised by white people than we were by our own people. So I grew up in a very unconventional household. I grew up with a lot of trauma and a lot of drama. I was not only stolen and sold, but I was premature. So part of my brain didn't even develop. And so I had to overcome that. I came out of a coma, and that's where my connection with Jesus actually started. It was in 1961, and they had set my parents up, my adopted parents, to tell them, you might have to put her in a sanitarium because she is going to be a vegetable for the rest of her life. And my parents didn't really believe that, but they listened to the doctors because apparently the doctors knew best. And what we found is once I was in that coma, they had me baptized in the hospital. So I wasn't even aware of it. Of course, I was an infant also. But the next day they came in to check on me and I was wide awake. And unless you know what to look for on the outside, you can't tell that there was anything wrong. If you see an MRI of my brain, you'd be like, oh crap, what the heck happened? So it started me on a healing journey even as an infant because I knew there was a better way. I could talk to animals, which really annoyed the heck out of my parents because they would follow me home from school. And my mom was like, stop talking to them. Okay, Mom, I'll stop talking to them. So then I started telepathically communicating with them. I wasn't talking, And so she was like, stop it, we don't want all these animals here. I'm like, but Mom, you can't tell somebody to stop doing what comes natural to them. And healing came natural to me, even as a young child. Other children would come to me when they had problems. And again, because of the way I grew up, I really didn't pay much attention until I was into my late 20s, and I met my first teacher, who was part Hawaiian. And she taught me a lot of the Huna tradition. And then when I moved to Arizona, I met Serge. And it was a very funny story how we met, but when we met, he started training me and putting all the knowledge that I have been carrying, because I'm a wisdom keeper. So I have a lot of knowledge, and part of what we were taught is native healing is not only about the medicine of the past, but it offers a new paradigm for the future also. It recognizes the intense interaction between mind and body, and it promotes the power of community, spirituality, and healing. Native healing utilizes the sacred 4 directions, oftentimes using 6, and most times, as I'll show you in a few minutes, we usually use 7, because we are the 7th direction as we stand in a medicine wheel. So this is an image of the Lakota medicine wheel. There are many different wheels. Sun Bears is one of the most popular. But for those of us who follow the Lakota way, this is the medicine wheel that we use. And it will show you some of the, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it will show you the different wording in Lakota, and it'll give you the east, the south, the west, because each direction has a color to it. Each direction has an aspect to it, mind, body, spirit aspect. Each direction has a sacred time for it. So you can have, in the East, you always start in the East when you're working with the medicine wheel teachings and healing. So when you're in the East, you're dealing with infancy. You're dealing with new beginnings. You're dealing with new ideas, whether it's a book idea, whether it's a creative idea that you have come up with or thought about. This is where you go to work on that. You sit in the East in the medicine wheel. It's about the time of, I can never think of it. It's dawn. So, and it also is the springtime. And when you move to the South, this is where you're dealing with emotions. And that's where I sit in the medicine wheel. Because, of course, I came in and I created all these emotional things that had to be healed. But when we work in the medicine wheel, we work on ourselves. Because you can't work with another person in the medicine wheel until you've healed yourself first. Okay? So when you learn how to heal your own emotional baggage, and you can get from the spot of, I'm no longer the victim, I am the survivor, then you know you have healed. And because I sit in the South, if I need balance, I work with the energies of the North. I turn to my ancestors. I turn to the ancient ones. Because then I am sitting here in the center, and it brings balance. So if you're somebody that sits in the East or the West, you would work with the opposite direction in order to receive balance. Because the whole idea when you work in the medicine wheel is for perfect harmony and perfect balance. And normally, like with sun bearers, the eagle is always in the East for all the medicine wheels. Sometimes in the South, you'll have different animals. Most of the time, I work with coyote in the South, and the coyote is a trickster. Could mean a couple different things when a coyote shows up. It could tell you, you need to laugh at yourself, you need to lighten up, you're taking yourself too seriously, which if you're lucky if that's the only reason they show up. But they can also show up when there's trouble around. They can show up if you're getting ready to lose your job. I found that out the hard way. I had a very big coyote come across the street when I was going to work one day. And from distance, it looked like a dog. I mean, because I was far enough away, I couldn't really tell. And it stopped, because I kept saying, is that a dog or is it a coyote? Is that a dog or a coyote? It heard me talking. So it stopped in the street, turned around, and came back out to my car and literally said, do I look like a dog? No, not really, I guess. Nope, yep, I guess you're a coyote, all right. I got to work, and found out I was laid off. So every time I've seen a coyote since there, I always ask, do I need to lighten up? Have I been taking myself too seriously? Has my ego gotten in my way? Or is something getting ready to happen? Because you always animals will talk to us. So as long as you know that they will talk to you and you know you can hear them, you'll get the wisdom. The bear sits in the west, in the medicine wheel I work with. I don't know if I have a picture of the other one. Oh, well, not really. So the bear sits in the west, which is the looks within place. So when you're working on yourself and you're not getting any answers, you go to the west, because that's where your spirit resides, in your soul. That's where the Great Spirit is. You want answers? All you have to do is ask yourself, what do I need? I have termed a coin, you've heard of the blooming onion. Well, now I have the spiritual blooming onion. Because every time you work on an aspect of yourself as you go through the medicine wheel teachings and trainings, you'll get rid of one layer of that onion, but another layer is going to right there ready for you to heal. And sometimes it can take you a couple days to go through something, depending on how intense it is. In my case, it's taken me, okay, we're not going to quite say, but we'll say it's over 50 years. But you do it as long as it needs to happen, until you can actually talk about what happened to you. Because most of us have gone through some kind of drama or trauma in our life. That is what has turned us to metaphysics. That is what's turned us into healers and working with the spiritual body and the spiritual mind, because we've gone through trauma. We know what it feels like to be down at the bottom. I told somebody recently, because I was going through something, I said, I feel right now I'm underneath the bottom of the totem pole. But then you quickly turn it around, because you go within into this place in the west, and you ask the bear for help. And the bear happens to be my main power animal. And she was there to protect me through all the abuse I went through as a child. She helped get me through it. The mountain lion helped get me through it, so that I survived and became a survivor instead of a victim of what was done. When we get to the north, you're dealing with the ancestors. You're dealing with the buffalo. You're dealing with mostly white buffalo, but also the regular buffalo sits in the north, which is all about abundance. It's about prosperity. To the natives, when we dealt, even the old timers, the ancient ones, when the spiritual leaders, because in Native America they didn't call anybody shamans, they were spiritual leaders, and they still call themselves that. You can be a medicine person or a medicine man or a medicine woman, but you might not necessarily be a spiritual leader. But a spiritual leader is always a medicine man or a medicine woman. So they would talk to the spirits. They would talk to the spirits of the ancestors. They would talk to the Great Spirit, Wankantanka, Tonkushila, Great Mystery. However, the tribe named the entity known as, in most circles, as God, they called it different names, but it's still the one spirit. Because as we say when we start ceremony, Great Spirit, the one spirit who moves through all. So when you're working on the wheel, there's 4 aspects of the wheel. And the yellow, which is the east, you're working on your mental stuff that might be coming up and causing issues. The South, well, again, this is the Lakota one, so they do things a little different. But normally in the South, which is the red color for medicine bearers, when you're in the South, you're working on emotional issues. When you move to the West, which is normally black, you're working with the physical. There are some tribes that don't believe in working with black because they think it's negative. So they will put either like a hunter gray color or a hunter green in there, or they will put a navy blue because they feel the black is too negative. And then, of course, when you get to the North, you're working on spiritual issues. So the teachings from a lot of the native healers are, they teach the necessity of relationships. They teach the importance of acceptance and surrender. They always teach people to focus on the present, because it's only in the present that we can move forward. They teach the importance of community, transcending blame, and that's where forgiveness comes in. The importance of spiritual dimension and profound change. Because again, it's only through change that we grow as humans. We grow in our spiritual growth and all other growth. So the medicine wheel concept guides our healing journey. When you're working with the wheel, there's actually 36 stones that you work with in the wheel. There's 4 cardinal directions that most people you talk about, and those are the 4 that you saw, the east, west, north, and south. But there's also 4 non-cardinal directions. Most people don't talk about those, but they're there and they can be worked with, and each stone has a different property to it. Not only do you work with the animals or the winds, but you also work with flower essences. You can work with the different properties of the gemstones, whichever you're using. They come into play. And then as you notice with any kind of wheel, there's spokes in the wheel. And each spoke has 3 other stones that go into center. So you can do a lot of healing work, and anything can be taken to the wheel to heal. It doesn't matter what it is. Any kind, it could be you're mad at somebody, you can't figure out how to get over your anger. Go sit in the South. Call on Coyote. Find out what the heck it is that you need to work on to heal the energy with this person. And this, okay, so this is a little drawn, a little more explained so you can see. So this is where we always start in the East. We find spiritual connection and the power of the Spirit to sustain our lives. This is where we learn the connection of all things. We find inner vision that comes from our awareness of underlying unity. When we move to the South, here we learn about our emotions. We learn to ground ourselves in contact with the earth and with the present moment. We learn to trust, and the innocence is in the South. The West, we learn to nurture the physical body and the environment in relation to the cycles of life and death. We learn about respect, kindness, and activities to nurture ourselves, our others, and the body. We learn about going within and introspection. In the North, we discover the insight and community. We develop our intellect and learn to seek knowledge and wisdom. This is where the ancestors reside. And it is where the elders teach and share their experience and wisdom. There are 7 sacred ceremonies from the White Buffalo Calf Woman that was translated down to the Lakota. Sweat Lodge, Vision Quest, the Sun Dance, Making of Relatives, the Keeping of the Soul, the Womanhood Ceremony, and Throwing of the Ball. And if you follow the Lakota Way, these are the 7 ceremonies that are adhered to. And when you follow the Lakota Way, you stay in balance with nature and with spirit. I'll get to those in just a second. So when I start ceremony, we always, like I said, we start in the east, and we usually use sage to call in this powers. And this is my personal fan. I have others over there for sale, but this is my personal one. I've made it about 20 years ago, and it's held up pretty good. It's gone through many ceremonies and a lot of stuff. But when we call in the energies, we call in the spirit keepers. So it's Aho, Matakiwe Oyasi, which, as you'll see, we are all related. So we're letting that spirit keeper know that we are related to them. So to the east, we say, Aho, Iona Tonka Shone, Wabus. Or, wait a minute, I'm in the east, so Waboon. So we're calling in the spirit keeper of the east. So then we ask the west to come in, or the south to come in. So it's Aho, Shana Dose, Iona Tonka Shone. Again, we're calling in that spirit keeper and letting him know we are related to that energy. To the west, Mojikiwis, Aho, Iona Tonka Shone. Then to the north, Wabus, Iona Tonka Shone. And with the ceremonies I do, we also call in Maki'ina, who is Mother Earth, because we are connected to her. Then we call in Wankan Tonka, Iona Tonka Shane. And then when we're finished calling in those directions, Wakan, Wakan, Wakan. And Wakan means holy. It is sacred, because we are sitting in the center of that circle, and we are sacred, every single one of us. Thank you.